Hello, this is Naomi from Team Ritual, and today we're going to explore what goes on inside of you when you experience a moment of disconnection with your partner. So, while it can be very tempting to focus on your partner's deficiencies and the work that they have to do, what we're going to do together is look inwardly and think about where you can become more connected with yourself, more at peace with yourself, and more skilled at managing these moments with your partner, because ultimately you only have control over yourself, and we hope that by becoming more connected with yourself and more skilled at managing these moments, that the relationship will become stronger as well. So what does it mean to be connected with yourself? The more aware you are of your thoughts, of your feelings, and of your behaviors, the more connected you are to yourself. So what do we think, what do we feel, and what do we do in those moments of disconnection when our partner doesn't respond the way we wanted them to? It's important to know the difference between thoughts and feelings because we respond differently to thoughts than we do to feelings. Thoughts are beliefs that can be either true or not true, such as if your partner comes home late and you have the thought, he doesn't care about me, that might be true. It might not be true, but the fact that it could be either true or untrue means that it's a thought and not a feeling. And what we do with thoughts is, first of all, we ask ourselves, what's the evidence for this thought? Do we really believe that it's true? Or is there something we could do to change it to make it more true? So if our partner comes home late and our first thought is, they don't care about me, we could think, well, maybe something happened, maybe there was traffic, maybe there was a flat tire, maybe they had a moment of carelessness, but overall they do care about me. We can approach this thought from several angles, but the fact that we can ask ourselves whether it's true or untrue makes it and tells us that it's a thought. A feeling, on the other hand, is one word. We feel sad, we feel anxious, we feel angry, we feel lonely, and that has nothing to do with being true or untrue. Feelings often stem from the thoughts. So if we have the thought, my partner doesn't care about me, there's a good chance that we'll feel sad or angry or anxious or lonely. And it's important to keep those two separate because whereas with thoughts, we ask ourselves, is this true? With feelings, we are accepting and we try to understand why it makes sense that we're feeling what we're feeling. But we don't try to establish whether it's true or untrue. The first thing we need to do when we realize that we're having a thought is ask ourselves, what evidence do we have for this thought? Is it actually true, or is there something that's more true? And if we conclude that there's something that's more true, we can go ahead and replace the original thought with the revised thought. The second thing we do is notice what we're feeling and see the connection between the thought and the feeling. So if we believe the thought, my partner doesn't care about me, then it makes a lot of sense that we'd feel sad. If we don't believe the thought that my partner doesn't care about me, then we might have a different set of feelings. The last thing we do with thoughts that we've recognized as thoughts is frame them as the stories we tell ourselves. Because when we can recognize that a thought is just a story that we're telling ourselves, and it might be true and it might not be true, we can become less attached to it, and our partners are less likely to become defensive. So for example, if your partner comes home late, then you could say, hey, the story I'm telling myself is that you don't care about me. And when I believe that thought, I feel upset and sad and kind of lonely. When we share our thoughts as the stories we tell ourselves, then we're less attached to the thought as an absolute truth. And we're less likely to evoke defensiveness in our partner because we're sharing the thought as a story. And they can hear, this is her internal narrative. She doesn't necessarily think that this is absolutely true. And then we have something to talk about. When we are able to frame the thought as the story we tell ourselves, and we're able to ask ourselves, what's the evidence for this thought? Is this thought really true? We may end up with a revised thought. And that could sound like, okay, my partner came home late, and my initial thought was, he doesn't care about me. But when I thought about it some more, I remembered that actually I have a lot of evidence that he does care about me, and he's usually on time, and probably something came up. Or even if it was a moment of carelessness, it doesn't mean that he doesn't care about me in general. So the next thing we want to do is identify what feelings we're having. And the first feelings that we'll recognize are usually what we call the secondary emotions, such as anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance. And those will show up first and are easier to identify. And then we want to ask ourselves, what else am I feeling? What's underneath the anger? What's underneath the frustration? And that's when we'll often find what we call primary emotions, which are softer and more vulnerable, such as sadness, anxiety, helplessness, yearning, and fear. And what happens is that because those emotions are so vulnerable and so difficult to feel, that the secondary emotions come in response to those and will try to protect us from them. So if we're feeling very anxious or very sad, the anger will come in and say, this is not okay. Something has to change. And by becoming aware of the different feelings that we're having and giving them names, we can reconnect to our own feelings and be able to respond to them more effectively. So when we learn to respond to the softer, more vulnerable emotions with curiosity and compassion and understanding, then the secondary emotions of anger and frustration don't have to work so hard to protect us from their pain, and won't lead us to the types of angry behaviors such as yelling and criticism and door slamming, or the withdrawing behaviors such as leaving the room or shutting down, because they're receiving the response and compassion that they need from us. So now that we've reviewed the triangle of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, here are 5 things that you can take away when you experience disconnection. Number 1, distinguish between the thoughts and the feelings. Number 2, ask yourself whether the thoughts are true. And if there's room for upgrade, replace them with a more true thought. Number 3, name the feelings that arise from the thought. Number 4, see how the feelings are connected to the thoughts. And number 5, learn how to respond to your feelings with empathy and understanding. So here's a question for you to consider. Think of a time recently when you were feeling something really intensely. How many feelings can you name that you were experiencing at the same time? And can you identify the thoughts that led you to have those feelings? This is Naomi from Team Ritual. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.